Okay, so now after us discussing the number systems, and we gave a very brief introduction into fractions. And as I've said, that I cannot actually talk about fractions in depth because there's a lot of other topics that we have to discuss first in order for us to fully understand the topic of fractions. So that's the reason why I'm actually going to progress with the course, and then at the end of the term, we'll go back to all of the sections and start linking all of the topics. So that'll be more like a miscellaneous session where we start bringing all of the topics together and start explaining the more in-depth questions. Okay. But for now, what we are going to discuss is algebraic expressions and equations. Right. So these are basically mathematical statements. All right. It's actually one of the mathematical statements, and I'm going to give you a brief introduction into the other types, which are inequalities and equations. It is not a very difficult topic to comprehend, but under exam conditions, we generally become stressed and tend to do the wrong things. This is why I'm going to teach you a rinse and repeat process so that you have a rigid foundation to always go back to when in doubt. As I've said before, the only two things that we do in maths is solve or simplify. And remember that in lesson 1 that I said that numbers are the words of maths. Now we are going to add structure to these words to form sentences. And so this is how we're going to actually start linking the entire syllabus together, because initially we said that we have numbers which are the words. Now when we start adding operation signs to them, we can start forming sentences. So this is what we are going to do now. Okay, so I want you to write down these definitions for I want you to write down these definitions for expressions, equations, and inequalities, right? Because they are basically, we're going to eventually get to them. So it'll be good that you have the definitions so that you can always refer back to them. So I'm not going to talk about the fourth type of mathematical statement that we work with, but I will talk about the first three. An expression is simply the combination of numbers, variables, and operations. An expression is simply the combination of numbers, variables, and operations. So 2x squared plus 2y, this is an expression, plus 7z y squared is also an expression. So the combination of numbers, variables, and operations are what we call expression. Number 2, equations. Equations, this is the part of maths that will start telling stories. Expressions are simply the sentences that have meaning but not tell us much. So this expression here, it has meaning but it does not tell us much. When we start talking about equations, then we start equating two expressions. So this is an expression on its own. Well, let's just do this. 2x plus 1 is an expression, but what we do is we start to equate two expressions. When we start equating two expressions, that's when we lead to equations. Right? So equations are basically us equating two expressions. It has an equality sign, and it represents the relationship between two expressions. So this equality sign represents the relationship between two expressions. So it's saying that these two expressions are equal to each other. And what's very important about equations is that it's true for only certain values of x. So it is true for certain values of x. Write that down. That's very important, right? Very, very important. So write everything that I've just said. And lastly, we are going to talk about inequalities. Inequalities is a mathematical statement that compares two expressions using inequality symbols. So it compares two expressions like 2x plus 1 to 3x plus 2, but with inequality symbols. So what are the inequality symbols? It could be less than, it could be greater than, it could be less than or equal to. So this is less than or equal to, right? You'll see why. I'm going to teach you the power of the word or, right? Or equal to, or it could be greater than or equal to. Greater than or equal to. Right? You need to remember that. Again, I will explain this word very in depth. The word or and I will explain in depth when we start talking about inequalities. But just write this down. So that's how we start comparing two expressions, right? With an inequality symbol. This is an equality symbol. These are what we call, these four are what we call inequality symbols. And this is very important. It represents a range of values. It represents a range of values that satisfy the inequality. That satisfy the inequality. Very important. So it represents a range of value that satisfy the inequality. Right, so here we said for certain values, right, so maybe like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 values can make this expression true, can make the statement true. But with inequalities, sometimes there's a range. There's like infinitely many solutions at times. And that's why we say that there's a range of values that will make that statement true. Okay. Next year we will discuss the other type of mathematical statement. But for now, just remember this three.